So again, welcome everyone. Good morning or afternoon, depending on where you are joining us across the country or abroad. I'm Katrinelle Popescu. I am Tech Canada's Marketing and Communications Manager. So thrilled to have you join us today. And I'm especially delighted about the content of today's webinar. We have a really exciting session lined up, and we delve into the world of design thinking and innovation, all with Lyall Samaroden. Lyall, again, thank you for joining us. Really exciting. I think this is a topic a lot of people are wondering about, may not know about, have heard about. So really excited to delve into it. Lyall, of course, brings a wealth of experience and expertise, emphasizing the importance of a people-first approach when designing solutions. Of course, that's something that, again, leaders and organizations have likely heard about, but may have never really taken the time to understand what that means and how to approach it. Lyall has made significant contributions to various industries and sectors, and Lyall has helped organizations meet user and consumer needs while achieving their business goals. Of course, most important, that's why we're here. Throughout the webinar, Lyall is going to shed light on the transformative power of design thinking and innovative design. He's going to discuss, most importantly, practical strategies for incorporating a people-first approach, enabling organizations to improve operations and better serve stakeholders, what we all want. And of course, a reminder that not only is today's webinar live, but it is interactive. I know Lyall's going to ask you some questions, encourage you to add comments or questions, both in the chat. So whether you're joining us here on Zoom or across our social media channels, we will be monitoring both. And please actively engage with us. It always makes the session that much better. And whether it's questions or personalized insights, we welcome both. Now, don't want to delay it any further. Lyall, over to you. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Katrinelle. I'm really excited to be with you all here today. I hope wherever you are in the world that you are well and being kind to those around you. I do want to say that, first of all, thank you. Thank you to each of you for investing some of your precious time to talk about a subject that I'm hopefully you're going to see pretty passionate about. My goal today is all about trying to help you really harness and utilize kind of the power of creativity. And quite frankly, folks, that's really what superior leaders and superior organizations do. They really try to unleash the brilliance of themselves and their people onto their most pressing challenges. And that is kind of the superpower of the new market economy that we all find ourselves in. And so this concept of kind of like solving our complex challenges and the complex problems that our organizations or that our clients face, it really does require you to have kind of a pretty confident understanding of some innovation concepts so that you can kind of apply these, new ways of thinking to the various problems and challenges that you or your organization can face. And so before we kind of dive into some content, I want to get a sense of who we have in this lovely virtual conversation today to kind of discuss some innovation concepts and design thinking. And so you can see on screen now that I'd like to get a sense of how many of you are familiar with some of these kind of innovation concepts and innovation processes. So I want you to, in Zoom chat or in LinkedIn chat, I want you to type the number one, if you're an innovation pro. This is about giving you some reminders and a refresher and maybe a spark of energy on your quest to innovate, and you're familiar with many of these concepts. Type 2, if you think you could kind of hold your own in maybe a 3-minute cocktail party conversation about innovation processes. Type number 3, if in that 3-minute conversation, you'd probably be the one drinking more than talking in that 3-minute cocktail party convo. And then type the number 4, if maybe you've just recently or maybe even never heard of design innovation or design thinking as kind of some processes to help you and your organizations get to the value that you want to get to for your clients or for your users or for your customers. And the reason why you signed up today is because you're kind of curious to learn more about this stuff. And so I want to see those entries coming in. I'm seeing a number of them come in now, which is fantastic. I'm seeing some 3s, I'm seeing some 4s, I'm seeing a couple 2s. That's fantastic. Excellent work, everyone. Fantastic. So you've already warmed up your fingers here. It's great to see that we've got a bit of a wide range of knowledge and experiences on our call today. But I do want to ask you another question in chat. So keep your fingers going. I want to know what words come to mind when you think about the word design. When you hear the word design, what words immediately pop into your mind? Type those in Zoom chat, type those into LinkedIn chat, and let's see what comes to mind when you think about the word design. When you hear that word, when you see it in front of you on screen, what are some words that really kind of just jump at you, that pop out of your mind share and that you want to share? We're seeing Jennifer is saying creation, the concept of Michelle, visual, new is something that we're hearing from Danielle. Ken with like process. Yeah, absolutely. Lucy, I love this mix of kind of science and art. Yeah, absolutely. You know, folks, you know, when I ask this question, a lot of times the words that we hear words like, you know, innovation, creativity, new, artistic, right? The word design kind of almost always we associate it with like graphics and visual aesthetics. That's when we see that word presented to us, a lot of times the lens goes through this graphical or visual aesthetic lens. How about this word innovation, right? What words pop into your mind when you think about the word innovation, right? See that word on screen, it's popping into your mind. What are the first words that come to mind when you hear the word innovation? Yeah, we're seeing Sheila with experimentation. New is a word we're seeing. Again, creativity, creation. Yeah, absolutely, right? Yeah, the words like new, first, improve. Yeah, thank you, Sheila. Yeah, evolution, right? These are words that generally appear the most when you throw up the word innovation. And actually, when you Google the word innovation on the World Wide Web, you know, the most common kind of image that you get back is that, you know, glowing light bulb, right? The kind of the quintessential eureka moment, right? That of something like brand new and we see the world through new eyes, right? That's kind of the most common response when you Google it. That's the visuals that come back. But folks, when you put these two words together, design and innovation, you're really referencing kind of the fundamental process that's used to create innovation outcomes. If you want to come up with an outcome that's new, that's quote unquote innovative, design innovation is kind of the fundamental process that you're referencing. And it's this process of kind of focusing on really addressing the needs of what is, you know, of kind of what your clients and what your users or your customer, folks, we all have users, clients, or customers. I know some of you are more outward facing with external customers. Some of you are in roles where you have internal users, internal customers that are working with your team's outputs or your own outputs, right? And it's really this process of focusing on addressing those users or those people's needs, and then but also with what is kind of technologically feasible, and then really trying to devise a viable business strategy to kind of get some value from that new opportunity that maybe you've identified, right? I love this definition. This definition on screen, it comes from an organization called Komodo. And they're a group of kind of really, really smart people that they actually met at school. They met at the Singapore University of Technology and Design. And the wonderful folks behind Komodo, they actually have this kind of amazing kind of common goal. It's very admirable in my mind of really helping others kind of learn real world 21st century skills, like new approaches to problem solving, which is what we're talking about, right? They want to help people learn these skills really trouble-free and really in exciting ways. And so I have a lot of respect for kind of some of the work that they're putting out into the world. And this is really what they are trying to say with that definition. They're really trying to share with us that these kind of solutions that can emerge at the end of a design innovation process, they really should hit the overlap of kind of three critical lenses, right? Are like wonderful solutions and new innovations. They've got to be desirable. They've got to be wanted by the people that we're trying to solve challenges for. They've got to be feasible, right? It's got to be something that can technically and organizationally come alive and live. And it's got to be viable, right? It's got to be something that can also be sustained financially, right? There's got to be kind of a business model behind kind of those new ideas. And it's the kind of the nexus of all three of these lenses where innovation really does live. Now, the process of design innovation, it kind of requires kind of a unique blend of, I'm going to call them mindsets, to really do design innovation well, right? And it's mindsets like human-centered design. That's also known as design thinking. We're gonna get to that in a minute. But some other mindsets as well, things like maker culture, things like critical thinking and evaluation, and underpinning almost business mindset to make sure that things like feasibility and viability are also considered, right? It's really the collection of these mindsets that are really repeatedly used kind of throughout. I'm going to talk about kind of four main cycles of the innovation process, and I'm going to refer to those as kind of like the gears of innovation. And this is something that I've kind of adapted from the Board of Innovation. If you're unfamiliar with the Board of Innovation, it's a very large global design innovation firm that's, again, doing some amazing things in the world. And these four kind of gears of design innovation, they really do span across those kind of three Venn diagram sets that we spoke about just moments ago, right? Those kind of sets of desirability, right? What do people really want? What is it that people really need? Feasibility and viability. And these gears, these four gears I'm going to talk about, they also kind of, they do progress you through the different stages of a traditional solution development cycle or a product development cycle. You can see those on the vertical axis, right? From kind of understanding the problem to solution to really growing it and scaling it. And so let's talk about this first gear of innovation. And I like to call it proof of value, right? This is where you're really trying to find out what are the problems or the opportunities for your users, and really trying to understand what is of value to your users by kind of co-creating with them, really trying to understand their challenges and their problems through their perspectives, having really deep empathy for what they're going through so that you can start to understand what really would be valued by them. The second gear is proof of concept, right? And this is where you're kind of testing the effectiveness of maybe some of your early ideas, right? Bringing some of those early ideas to life through very low fidelity prototypes. Folks, when I say low fidelity prototype, I really want you to think things like, what can you make with duct tape and shoestring? What can you do in a skit? What can you do in a very simple 4-frame storyboard? A lot of times when people hear prototypes, they think like auto show car, right? Like something that's been highly sculpted. That's I would call that a high fidelity prototype. All of those high fidelity prototypes, though, begin with low fidelity prototypes. Really, like, think low cost examples, things you can create for less than $100 and less than an hour to kind of bring your proposed solution or your kind of new idea to life in some way to see if it's really going to deliver value or eliminate a problem for your user. Something that your users can kind of see in the world, experience in the world, so that they can also see if it's something that's actually going to address their challenge. Instead of it just being a thought, it's about bringing it to life. In design thinking, in innovation processes, there's a wonderful phrase that we use repeatedly, and it's this phrase of kind of building to think instead of thinking to build, right? Traditional problem solving says, well, let's think about it more before we build something. In great innovation processes like design innovation or human-centered thinking, it's really about building to think and letting that be your guide. This third gear is really proof of market, right? And this is where, through many rounds of iterating and kind of moving from these low fidelity prototypes that you mold and sculpt with your users or your clients to improve your ideas, you get to high fidelity prototypes. And you're really trying to ensure at this point that there's really, that you can ensure some business sustainability for your idea or your new solution, and that you're really trying to understand, is there a product market fit, right? That's really what proof of market's all about. And then this fourth gear is proof of impact. And proof of impact is all about kind of showing your idea or your solution's potential to kind of deliver impact to the masses by having some like proven customer successes. And this is where it's all about scaling your wins and trying to really drive to scale to get it into more audiences, more markets where you're having success and really demonstrating that impact of the solution. Now, folks, all four of these gears of innovation, they need to work synergistically to kind of create value for your users, but also for you and for your business, right? And so it's not, I don't want you to look at this as a simple linear process. You can see here that all of this is iterative, right? As you move through some of these gears, they create movement in the next gear. And some of that new movement in the next gear might actually cause you to circle back and learn and adapt and shift back in some of the earlier gears. It's got to be this synergistic experience to really bring new and creative solutions to life in a way that really does drive value for both parties. So where do a lot of organizations go wrong? Where do people mess this up a lot? My experience does align with a lot of what popular research says. Companies and leaders, people like you, we tend to proceed with ideas or solutions that we think our users or our customers are going to want. And we do that without really kind of truly empathizing or truly engaging with our users and our customers early in the process to kind of really understand kind of their needs, their wants, their perspectives. We kind of like jump to feasibility and viability, right? If I look at like the bottom axis here, we jump to feasibility and viability first, and then we try to make our solution desirable as a bit of an afterthought. And so folks, proof of value, proof of concept, right? Those are sometimes rushed, or they're maybe under-resourced in a lot of times in time. And that's because the prevailing mindset in business is a speed mindset. That's the prevailing mindset of business today, and it has its place. Don't get me wrong, right? Speed mindset makes a lot of sense when you're doing things like proof of market and proof of impact. But the foundation of innovation, it really relies on a learning mindset, right? And a learning mindset, which is absolutely fundamental to all of these gears, but a learning mindset is very much fundamental when you're talking about activities in proof of value and activities in proof of concept. Just a kind of a little aside story. My journey into kind of the innovation realm began about 7 or 8 years ago. And it's when I, quite frankly, got pissed off with a lot of my clients. And my practice back then was very much specialized in kind of supporting large-scale transformations or large-scale organizational change. I'm very well known for those types of activities. And I'd have clients kind of contact me to help them with these change initiatives. And I discovered very early on that the reason why they're having change challenges is kind of because their solution really wasn't aligned with the needs or the wants of their customers or their users or their constituents. And, folks, you can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig, right? And I really wanted to go on this quest to kind of find a way to start helping my clients approach their challenges with new eyes and to kind of unlock better solutions that would be welcomed by their customers and their users. And I went on this quest of really trying to understand how to do that. And this is where design thinking comes in. And design thinking really does support the design innovation process. And so if you think about the title of this session, design innovation versus design thinking, they work hand in glove. And when we begin our kind of innovation efforts, right, when we're at that point, we're really trying to understand and appreciate what's desirable to our users, right? A good design thinker or a human-centered thinker, that's where they start their journey. They try to understand what would really delight my user. What is it that they're really after? We try to get a better understanding of what solutions would actually appeal to our users. And once we have that kind of deep understanding of the challenges as they see them, or the problems that really matter to our users, and then we do some work to kind of come up with a solution concept that they're going to desire, that's when you kind of begin this quest to conquer feasibility and viability. And folks, in traditional problem solving, it's almost inverted, right? In traditional problem solving approaches, we start kind of from the lens of, well, what can I do and what can I sustain? And then I kind of try to come up with something that's going to be acceptable to my customer. And that's not where great innovation lives, right? To create that draw where people want to be attracted to the work that your teams are doing, to be attracted to your services, to your infrastructure, to your processes, to your products, whatever it is, right? It really depends on you having a really deep understanding of what it is that's desirable to them, and then working to overlay feasibility and viability on top of that. So, like what happens when we start with desirability? Great things happen, because that's where innovation lives, right? Innovation lives in this nexus of all three of these lenses. So let's get on to design thinking. And I guess here's the great news. I'm pretty certain that all of you have experienced the benefits of design thinking, even if you didn't know that design thinking was involved, or that design thinking was at the root of some of these kind of improvements and new things that you might be attracted to. And so you're probably asking yourself, like, well, what is design thinking anyway? And a really simple answer, and one that I think takes hold best for a lot of people, is that design thinking, think of it as an approach to problem solving that just yields better, more innovative solutions, because it does set you up with the mindset to put your user or your customer really at the center of all of your problem solving efforts, right? All of your efforts to try to figure out what is it that they value, what is a concept that's really going to land with them, right? Think proof of concept, proof of value. Some of you on this call may have heard of IDEO before. IDEO, you can give me a thumbs up or a quick response in chat if you've heard of IDEO. For those of you that have, fantastic. For those of you that haven't, IDEO is really a Silicon Valley-based design firm, and they're responsible for a lot of innovations that really surround us in our daily lives. Think the Swiffer duster. I was using a Swiffer duster last night, actually. I was like, yay, IDEO. The Apple mouse, right, was co-designed with IDEO and Apple. The wearable breast pump, huge improvement for women in first world nations to kind of allow them to be more productive while still providing breast milk to their infants, right? Those are just a few innovations that IDEO has been responsible for. And folks, this quote up on screen, it's from a gentleman named Tim Brown. Tim is the current chair at IDEO, and he's an author of a really amazing book. The book's called Change by Design. If today's talk inspires you in any way, go out and pick up that book, Change by Design by Tim Brown. Someone write that in chat for me, that'd be great. Change by Design by Tim Brown. His quote on screen, right, the one you're kind of reading there, it really does highlight a pretty essential point. He talks about how design thinking, it's human-centered, right? It really begins and starts with an understanding of the people for whom you're innovating. You really got to understand, what are their challenges? What do they value? What are the problems we're solving for in their eye, right? All that stuff that relates to proof of value that we talked about moments ago. Katrinal, thanks for putting that book title in chat. Appreciate that. I also want to stress that, like, breakthrough innovations, right? They're more than just products or blockbuster product successes, right? I really want you to recognize that innovation also includes innovation in services, processes, infrastructure, or environments that we create, events that we go to, even business strategies. I fully suspect that for many of you, that word design, where we kind of started our talk, it connotates a kind of a specific output, usually around kind of the products. But in the discipline of design thinking, and in the discipline of, or I guess the macro lens of design innovation, the word design, it's synonymous with words like create or construct or the word build. One creates a strategy. One can construct an environment or some type of infrastructure improvement. One builds a process. And so, this kind of concept of using design thinking or using design innovation to kind of look at your business through new eyes, right? It's not just for your kind of, what you might presume to be the designer set, right? Like people that wear, black turtlenecks, or people that have thick rimmed glasses, like the Steve Jobs archetype, right? In fact, a lot of the best design thinking work, it kind of comes out of groups that have a really broad set of experiences, people with like very diverse backgrounds. It's practiced today by really basically anyone who is really keen to try to connect very deeply with their customer or with their user. People that want to kind of take knowledge from what they're gaining from those users or from their customers and transform that into insights and really actionable ideas. People that want to kind of implement new solutions that have business impact, and people that want to do it fast and effectively. those are the people that are using design thinking today in their business approaches. And it's not just a fad. In 2020, the World Economic Forum, they ranked problem solving, critical thinking, and creativity as the top 3 skills that employees need to have to thrive in kind of the workplace of the future. Right? Look at that. Problem solving, critical thinking, and creativity. Right? Sounds eerily like design thinking and some of these mindsets behind the macro process of design innovation. Another one, a 2018 LinkedIn survey of a whole bunch of executives from over 300 global organizations. This was a global survey of global organizations. They reported that AI and machine learning were the top 2 capabilities that were needed by their organizations to really compete in this age of digitization and the automated world that we find ourselves in. But what came in number 3 was design thinking. Okay, this came in ahead of robotics. This came in ahead of Internet of Things, IoT. This came in ahead of natural language processing. So folks, bottom line, like design thinking, it's an extremely important mindset, a really important capability that needs to be developed to kind of thrive in this future of work that we find ourselves in. And it's also kind of one of the core mindsets required for that kind of macro design innovation process where we kind of began our talk today. Now, folks, I mentioned IDEO a moment ago. They're this kind of firm that's really been credited with bringing design thinking kind of back into C-suite vocabulary when we talk about innovation. I want to play a clip for you now, which is a really good demonstration of how a design thinking mindset really supports these first 2 gears of design innovation, right? Remember those first 2 gears that we talked about? Proof of value, proof of concept with your users. And so this clip, it's an oldie, but it's a goodie. Okay, it's a clip from 1999. I'm going way back in time here. It's from an episode of ABC's Nightline News show. And it was a team at IDEO. They were tasked with creating a new grocery cart concept, right? Reinvent the shopping cart. And the Nightline crew kind of concentrated on kind of the team's design process, right? They captured them brainstorming, researching, prototyping, gathering user feedback. And they actually kind of took this kind of a design that kind of went from an idea to really a working appearance model of a shopping cart in just 5 days. And so this is a summary clip of a much longer 20-minute news expose that aired in 1999. So our clip's about 4 minutes. And so watch this. And then if you're curious, you can get the longer clip on YouTube. So let me just get that playing for you now. Oops, 1 second here. We'll get back to where we were. Here we go. Enjoy.
The product design folk, and said, take something old and familiar, like, say, the shopping cart, and completely redesign it for us in just 5 days. ABC News correspondent Jack Smith tells us what happened next.
9 in the morning, day 1, and these people have a deadline to meet.
So welcome to the kickoff of the shopping cart project.
This is Palo Alto, California, in the heart of Silicon Valley, and these are designers at IDEO, probably the most influential product development firm in the world. Safety emerges early as an important issue.
22,000 child injuries a year, which is, and so they're hospitalized injuries. I mean, there are many others.
And theft. It turns out a lot of carts are stolen. As the team works, it becomes clear there are no titles here, no permanent assignments.
And the other side says, gives us a lot of help, says, be safe. I'll give you a big red ball on a post, and that says you're a big guy. If you got a ball, you're a senior vice president. You know, what do I care? The desk, the red ball, it's all the same. It's not possible.
The team splits into groups to find out firsthand what the people who use, make, and repair shopping carts really think.
Okay, go.
The problem with the plastic cart is the wind catches it. Yeah. And these things have been clocked at 35 across the parking lot.
Oh, man, that's actually a pretty good point.
3:30 in the afternoon, and the group is back at IDEO. There is no let-up.
Each team is going to demonstrate and communicate and share everything that they've learned today.
A shopping cart has been clocked at 35 miles an hour traveling through a parking lot in the wind.
We were in the store, 2 hours, and it was truly frightening just to see the kind of stuff going on.
You ought to designate some people to make damn sure that the store owner's point of view is represented.
After 9 straight hours, the team is tired. They call it a day.
So,
Everybody cool?
well, that's great. Thanks a lot. We had a great time today.
IDEO's mantra for innovation is written everywhere. One conversation at a time. Stay focused. Encourage wild ideas. Defer judgment. Build on the ideas of others. The ideas pour out and are posted on the walls.
Oh, the blind, the privacy blind. Like when you're buying 6 cases of condoms, no one sees. If it doesn't nest, we don't have a solution.
Organized chaos. It's not organized. What it is it's focused chaos.
Vote with your Post-it, not with an idea that's cool, but with an idea that's cool and buildable. If it's too far out there and it can't be built in a day, then I don't think we should vote on it. Enlightened trial and error succeeds over the planning of lone genius.
Enlightened trial and error succeeds over the planning of the lone genius. If anything sums up IDEO's approach, that is it.
If you don't work under time constraints, you could never get anything done because it's a messy process and go on forever.
Back at the shop, it is 6 o'clock, and the 4 mock-ups are ready for showing.
Baskets also can be, if you think you will have more volume, baskets can be put in.
A modular shopping cart you pile hand baskets onto. A high-tech cart that gets you through the traffic jam at checkout.
That you could mount a scanner on the shopping cart so that you as the customer, as you pull it off the shelf, would scan each item.
One that's built around child safety, and another that lets shoppers talk to the supermarket staff remotely.
Yeah, where can I find the yogurt?
But the adults, again, decide more work needs to be done before the mock-ups can be combined into one last prototype.
There it is! There it is! So we took the best elements out of each prototype.
The cart, which is designed to cost about the same as today's carts, is different in every other way.
What do you think?
Well, I'm very proud of the team. I think it's great.
Does this work for you?
Works for me great. It's also beautiful.
The cart's wheels turn 90 degrees so it can move sideways. No more lifting up the rear in a tight spot. And you shop in a totally different way. The bags are hung on hooks on the cart's frame. Remember, there is no basket here.
At first, I was a little shocked, but I think you have some fantastic ideas here. It needs a little refining, but I think that it's great. I mean, we would want them.
She also gave us some really good comments about how we can make this thing better.
A lot of hours. Also, an open mind, a boss who demands fresh ideas be quirky and clash with his, a belief that chaos can be constructive, and teamwork, a great deal of teamwork. And these are the recipe for how innovation takes place. This is Jack Smith for Nightline in Palo Alto, California.
I want you to meet Doug Dietz. Doug Dietz is a designer at GE Health. And a few years ago, him and his team wrapped up a project working on a brand new kind of beautiful MRI machine. And one day while Doug and his team were kind of proudly waiting to see their design kind of come alive in its native habitat, a hospital, they encountered a young patient in the hallway that was headed towards the MRI scan room with her parents. And she was absolutely terrified, tears rolling down her face. And at the sight of this young girl and seeing how she became a little bit hysterical as they were trying to get her into the scan room, the MRI technician had to call for the anesthesiologist. And Doug and his team kind of soon learned that sedation rates for youth for MRI procedures were actually astonishingly high, right? A very non-invasive procedure. Here we are sedating children, these non-invasive procedures, right? Sedation increases risks to the patient, increases hospital risk, and increases costs for everybody. And this moment kind of changed Doug and his team's perspective, and they knew that they kind of had to make a change. They leaned in and kind of learned how to approach their challenge from a design thinking or a human-centered perspective that would really ultimately help them make MRIs less terrifying for children. They knew that they wouldn't be able to kind of significantly redesign the machine. They wouldn't be able to secure a whole bunch of new funding from GE Health to design the machine from scratch. And so the team decided to really kind of lean in and focus on the experience of an MRI scan instead. And so Doug and his team transformed the MRI machine into a kid's adventure story with kind of the patient starring at the lead role. They applied really colorful decals to the outside of these machines. Some of them had, kind of like these kind of almost like a kind of an aquarium theme where, you could kind of go into the underwater chamber and go down with the bubbles of the submarine, right? And with these kind of new designs, the number of young patients needing sedation dramatically decreased. Patients were happier, hospitals were happier. But the greatest achievement that Doug had was when he observed a little girl who requires frequent medical treatments and tests like this. And after one of her scans in one of these designed MRI units, she asked her mom if she could come back tomorrow. And so folks, when you approach your problem or your challenge with a design thinking mindset, kind of like what Doug did, so many new opportunities to deliver value and deliver value to your users kind of present themselves in front of you. Now, this is the fundamental kind of design thinking approach that folks like me help people like you understand more deeply. Once you've kind of identified a broad challenge area or a problem that your customers or users are facing, you kind of begin this journey that starts with empathy and observation of the people that you're really trying to solve a problem for. That's what helps you further define kind of the real problem at hand, so that you can kind of springboard yourself into ideation to come up with potential solution ideas to the challenges that really matter to your users or to your customers. From there, you kind of create these kind of physical representations of your idea, so that you can kind of put your early thinking into the hands of your users so that you can learn from them and kind of see how they interact with your idea. Just like what you saw in that video, right? Where those people were kind of like playing with the shopping cart prototype and seeing how it worked. And you saw store clerks being like, I think we were onto something here. There's a few refinements we need to make. But they were getting generative feedback by using those prototypes, those early prototypes, to help improve the ideas. Folks, that clip aired in 1999. There are versions of that shopping cart now available. And all of those improvements that you saw have been embedded into existing shopping cart designs that many of you see in your stores today, right? It comes from that work that they did to understand the experience that people have with a shopping cart, right? And that's where you do these kind of series of tests to see what's landing with people, what's really making a difference. That allows you to kind of validate your solutions before you kind of start the scaling process, right? That proof of impact gear. That was to go back to the macro innovation process, right? Proof of impact, where you're really trying to bring your idea to reality and scale it for the masses. So we don't have enough time today to kind of walk you through each of these steps in great detail, but I thought I'd kind of focus our time on one that's a really important phase. And it's right at the beginning of the process, empathy, right? Really appreciating and understanding someone else's perspective. And so observing people is a really great way to kind of appreciate another person's reality. Qualitative research techniques that kind of allow you to put yourself really into someone else's shoes, to go beyond what they say and do, so that you can really start to connect with how they think and how they feel. I'm certain we've got some research geeks listening in today. This is where the whole field of ethnographic or empathic research kind of comes into play. And you want to do this work. You want to observe and connect with people where they live, where they work, where they socialize, not where you live, where you work, where you socialize. You want to go to their kind of native habitat to get inspiration and really gain an empathy for their lens of life. Most of us understand the classic kind of say-do dichotomy, right? A simple exercise would be to kind of ask someone, how much exercise they do in a week. And they'd probably tell you that they do more than they actually do. And folks, that's why observation is way more relevant than just asking someone their thoughts, right? Observing allows you to really appreciate and uncover kind of the thoughts and feelings of the people that you're trying to solve a problem for. Now, sympathy is often a word that gets confused with this word empathy. So sympathy is really more about kind of your ability to have or maybe demonstrate concern for someone else's well-being. But sympathy doesn't necessarily require you to experience in a deep way what another person experiences. Sympathy also kind of involves this almost sense of detachment or a sense of maybe superiority. When we sympathize, we tend to kind of project feelings of pity and sorrow for another person. And the feelings of pity and sorrow, they not only can rub people the wrong way, but they're kind of useless in good design and in good innovation. In design thinking, we're really concerned with trying to understand the people for whom we're designing solutions for, so we can create solutions that can really help them. You know, when we get out and we visit natural environments of our users, right, we're trying to learn how they behave, how they, you know, what's really deeply important to them, right? We're seeking opportunities to kind of to connect with them and absorb what they're going through, not just to react to what they're going through, and to try to feel what they're feeling. With empathy, we can gain insights that really can't be gathered really by any other methods. And so the image that you see up on screen is of a team of postgrad students at Stanford that were tasked with kind of developing a new type of incubator for developing countries. And their direct contact with mothers in remote villages were unable to kind of reach hospitals. Those interactions really helped them reframe the challenge to a warming device rather than a new kind of incubator. And the end result was the embrace warmer, right? I'd encourage all of you to Google the embrace warmer. There's some amazing articles and YouTube clips about the importance of the embrace warmer in the world today, right? It has the potential to save thousands of lives. And it's this ultra portable incubator, which can be wrapped around the infant and used while the infant is being in the hands of the mother. And it's capable of going where no incubator could go before, and really due to its kind of portability and very dramatically reduced production costs. So, you know, instead of kind of needing to kind of deposit their babies into far-flung hospitals, mothers in remote villages can kind of use a portable warmer that serves the same need. And had this team of Stanford grads that worked on the embrace warmer, had they only kind of thought about designing incubators, they may have developed a semi-portable low-cost incubator, but it still wouldn't have made its way into remote villages. But with the use of empathy, right, understanding the problem from the perspective of a mother in a remote village, the team kind of designed a really human-centered solution that's really proving to be optimal for moms in developing countries. And so the objective of empathic research is to really try to uncover some of the intangible needs and feelings that indicate what ideally should change in a product or a system or an environment or a process that you're focusing on. Right? Empathic research, it kind of reveals these deeper needs, these deeper root causes, which if you address them correctly, can have a really profound impact on kind of how you're not only just kind of like easing the pain point momentarily for a user, but really dramatically improving their world. So, you know, that's all great, right? You've just explored a bit about how you make empathic observations, but it's also important that when you're using a design thinking or innovative mindset, who you observe also matters. Traditional problem-solving techniques, they've taught us to kind of always believe that good research is based on the quote unquote average experience of a population. But human-centered thinkers or design thinkers, they want to understand the outlier experience because they're a way better source of inspiration. We call those people extreme users. Extreme users, they have kind of this easier time articulating a problem that maybe an average user kind of covers up because they've adapted or they cope in some way. Technology is a really great example of this. I want you all right now that are listening in, I want you to visualize someone in your life that you love, that you care for, that is your technophobe. Who's that person in your life that is shying away from the latest and greatest technology? Right? If you went out and you observed those people, you connected with them for a day, you'd have an easier time understanding kind of where technology is failing them in some way, right? You'd get a glimpse of that. Now, consider the other extreme. Who's that person in your life that you love, a friend or family member, who's your technophile? That person that's almost like leaning into the latest and greatest technology. And when you observe and connect with those people and see them operate and go through life as a technophile, you almost get a glimpse of kind of what the future is going to be like for many people because they've maybe adapted or morphed their technology in some way to get a glimpse of the future. That's the importance of going out to the world of extremes. Anyone know what this is? What's on screen? I'd love to know if anyone knows what this is called. What is this instrument that I am sharing with you on screen? Anyone know what it is? If you do, please type into Zoom chat what you think this instrument on screen is. What is this unique looking device? Yeah, we've got some people saying an ice cream scooper. It's not a scooper, it's actually an ice cream blade. Okay, Xylus. Xylus is a Swiss kitchen utensil manufacturer. They use this concept of empathizing with extreme users to help them identify improvements for a new line of kitchen utensils. So you think about extreme users of an ice cream scooper, right? What it was before. They went to like ice cream parlors. They saw people digging into buckets and really trying to scrape the edges. And it was hard to get really hard ice cream out of the buckets. And so they recognized that a more blade-like design could cut through and chip away through some of the frozen ice easier than a scoop, right? That was one extreme. They went to the other end of the extremes. They went and observed children trying to get out ice cream. And they noticed that kids like to kind of lick the blade when they're done. Really hard to get your tongue into the well of a scoop. It's much easier when it's a flatter blade. And so folks, the ice cream blade is now the most prolific design for ice cream scooping devices that you can buy now. Most manufacturers are moving towards the blade design away from that deep welled scoop that many of us kind of know. Because when you kind of connect with extreme users, you have an easier time kind of appreciating some of their unmet needs that maybe the average user can mask. And so folks on the extremes, they have an easier time showing you or articulating some of those unmet needs. Here's another one from Xylus, right? Same kind of campaign where they were trying to think about ways that they could improve the design of kitchen utensils. This is an image of a pizza cutter. And so you think about a pizza cutter, right? Some extreme uses of a pizza cutter. One of the things that they observed is they went and looked at kids using pizza cutters. And you can see that this girl is using the more classically designed pizza cutter that has the handle, right? The current design that many of us know for a pizza cutter is the pizza wheel, the image you see up on the left. And by putting the body weight over the cutting edge, it's easier for you to get through the crust of pizza because children don't have the girth or the dexterity to cut through that. They struggle with it. Xylus also observed people with arthritis, people with immobilities in their hands working with kitchen utensils. And they noticed that putting any type of weight behind a kitchen utensil can be really challenging. So by moving your body weight over the cutting blade, it's kind of improved and made it easier for all of us. Right? Those improvements come from the world of improving and looking at extreme users. Now, I know I've just shown you a couple product examples there, but because quite frankly, in this forum, it's easier for all of us to relate to some of these product examples. But I also want you to remember that if you observe someone like using a piece of software, right? Notice where they grimace and correlate that to where they are in the software, and then you can improve that piece of the software, right? Empathy and observation techniques, it works for products, yes. But it also works for things like services, strategies that you're designing, process improvements, infrastructure improvements, building environments, event planning, whatever it is, like you name it, it works for it. And so, you now kind of have this understanding that you're this instrument of empathy and observation, and one of the audiences to go to uncover challenges and opportunities is to kind of go to extreme users. But when you're doing that, what are the things that you should pay attention to? Well, you want to be looking for these workarounds or adaptations, ways that people have morphed their environment in some way, right? Those are signals to you that it's like, wow, there's an opportunity to improve things here. They've changed the environment somehow. That's signaling to you something that they care about, something that's important to them. Scratch at that, try to understand that, right? Really try to dial into what they truly care about. What is it that's guiding a lot of their actions and what is fundamentally important to them, right? You want to be trying to understand and embrace that. And you also want to look for things that surprise you, right? We all have, many of us have been taught that, bias is bad. And we all have unconscious bias. It's part of our makeup. We're all going to have perceptions of what we think is going to occur when we go out and connect with someone or have an interaction with someone. But you can use your bias for good, right? You can start to check in and be like, what is it that I'm expecting to see? But then what did I actually experience? Or what did this person experience that's different from my paradigm? And you can use that bias and be surprised by some of those things and then be curious about it and really start to lean in and learn more. Scratch at that. See how you can unpack that to really start to see some differences in their environment or their perspective that can help inform good design moving forward. So those are three kind of things that I want you to pay attention to when you're out there in the world doing really good observation work. So folks, you might be asking, what can design thinking, what can that kind of mindset of innovation, what can it do for me? Well, have a read up on screen. I think that all of these are really relevant benefits for everyone on this call today. Design thinking is really going to help you uncover the answers to that question that many of us ask on a regular basis. The question is like, what's the outcome my client or my customer really wants from me? And it's the foundational mindset to help you really get those first two gears of innovation moving, right? Proof of value, proof of concept. And so I know that this has been a bit of a rocket speed intro to innovation and to design thinking. And I hope that you're curious to kind of learn more and that you want to get your hands dirty to try on some of these concepts. I'm a really big believer that as adults, we deserve the same kind of learning experiences that are afforded to astronauts, athletes, and actors. You might be wondering, like, what the heck do astronauts, athletes, and actors have in common? Well, one thing they have in common is they all get to practice their craft before they go prime time. And that's why my kind of innovation workshops, they really involve a lot of hands-on experiences. So adults like you can really try on these concepts and build their creative confidence so that they can leave more ready and equipped to kind of apply a design thinking or an innovation mindset back on the job, which is really where it counts. So folks, I'm going to introduce Katrinelle again, and Katrinelle is going to come on screen and help me respond to any questions or comments that we're getting from the crowd now about design thinking, about this kind of design innovation macro process, to which design thinking is a mindset that's fundamentally required to help ignite that process within your organization. I'm open to answer any questions or respond to any thoughts that you have from both Zoom chat, as well as maybe some questions or comments that we're getting in from LinkedIn. So Katrinelle, I'll turn things over to you.
Thank you, Lyall, first and foremost, for this fantastic presentation. So engaging. I was busy taking screenshots, trying to catch up and write as many notes. I haven't seen any questions yet. However, both here on Zoom and of course across our social media channels, a lot of comments and interaction, both with your early questions where you had asked about, which number, and where you had encouraged the audience to really engage with some words. So there was some really fantastic feedback around that, and a couple chats around what an engaging presentation this is. I think the one thing for me, which of course easy to forget, but where you had really challenged all of us beyond design being product-based. Yes. And that was a kind of a light bulb, of course. It's so much more than that. It goes beyond, and it could apply to really any industry, any audience, as long as you, and I love how you laid it out from empathy all the way to test. We do have actually a comment here from Chrissy. And she says, thanks for posting this. I work in the experience field. Any advice specific to applying this when considering experiences? So think guided tours, scavenger hunts, talks, etc. Chrissy, thank you for this. As I think even to our Tech Canada members, I know a lot of them are in the hospitality or experience industry across the country. So great question.
Yeah, one of the kind of empathic techniques that I didn't talk about today, but I talk about it actually in the tech workshop that I offer through some of your learning experiences here at Tech, is another place to go to really kind of do some observation activity and some empathy work, is to lean into analogous situations, right? Analogous situations are when you're trying to look at your challenge or look at your opportunity area. Chrissy, your area is, how do I make my experience maybe more engaging, more dynamic? That's probably the opportunity frame that you have. Really start to think about, well, where else in the world do those things occur? And so I'd ask you, Chrissy, that question, like, where else in the world do people experience similar types of things to what you're trying to do? And, some obvious ones that come to mind for me are going to be things like museums, are going to be things like the Space Sciences Center, are going to be places like the experience of moving through maybe a theme park, some other places, even the experience of going through maybe a medical procedure that's new to you, and how they stage you through that process and get you ready for that procedure, right? You can go and look to some of these analogous situations to start to unpack, well, what is it and how are they approaching that situation that I can learn from? And it's pretty amazing, like the Shishkinin bullet train in Japan. It's that light, that's that supersonic train, right? When they were recognizing that train was going to be going through a lot of heavily urban areas, and it creates a sonic boom. It makes the early design of the Shishkinin made a very bad noise when it went into tunnels because of the speed that the train was traveling, and it would make this a sonic boom. And that wasn't really helpful in urban environments. And so they leaned into analogous situations. Where they went? They went to the world of nature, right? The beak of the kingfisher The bird, the kingfisher, the beak of that bird actually helped those people redesign the front end of the Shishkinin train to minimize the boom as it went through urban-based tunnels, right? They got that from nature. Another really interesting analogy story, just to give you some inspiration, Chrissy, to your question, would be the US military, right? When the US military was mobilizing for the Second World War, and they were gonna have to like port people in like literally villages into foreign countries and have them move around and move troops around. You know where they went? They tried to get inspired for new ways to do that by looking at the Barnum and Bailey circus. You know, think about what you know about the circus back in the day, right? The circus literally packed up on a train and traveled from kind of town to town as it went around, like a whole village on wheels, right? Lions and tigers and bears, oh my. And so, you know, we can learn and we can get inspired by actually leaning into other situations that are kind of similar to our own to give us new inspiration for how we can kind of maybe make components of our own situation more in touch with what our users really want. So I would encourage you, Chrissy, to lean into the world of analogous situations or analogous users. It's a really great source to get inspired for what might be possible.
Fantastic. One more from Mike. This came from LinkedIn. What are those light bulb moments for senior leaders when you try to pitch this approach to larger corporations who are set in their ways of doing?
Yeah, I really think that when it comes to helping senior leaders understand the importance of this, it comes down to helping them recognize what their maybe prevailing mindsets are and what mindsets are required to really create a culture of where innovation can survive. I talked about one very briefly on this call, right? The prevailing mindset of business today is a speed focus, right? We are all heavily driven, and there's good merit for that because it's a competitive market out there. But when you're trying to uncover the real needs of your user, speed focus is your enemy, right? You've really got to embrace a learning focus and really start to have the appetite. What can I learn from my users, and make that learning focus your prevailing mindset versus speed focus. And so there is always going to be this natural wrestle. And I think it's actually really healthy to have it about what mindsets are you leading with. But like folks, as a leader, you know this, you know that the way you carry yourself and what you pay attention to and what you value shapes the culture of your teams and your people. And so if you're letting all of your activities be driven by a speed focus, yet you're saying you want your teams to be innovative, they're going to rush through a whole bunch of critical steps and they're going to make a whole bunch of assumptions that likely will be wrong. That will cost you more in the long run. And so that's just one example. There are some really strong prevailing leadership mindsets to embrace an innovation. I talk about 5 specifically. I've kind of told you one here on the call, but for every great innovation mindset, there is a counter mindset as well, which drives to a more optimization or efficiency focused organization. And those are different mindsets than what drives an innovation focused organization. And so it's really important that leaders start to rationalize that and actually understand it, because we sometimes don't even consciously know how we're actually carrying ourselves every day. It takes someone to kind of call it out and be like, these are the mindsets that we're going to pay attention to and that we're going to value at this moment in our evolution. And it takes a really convicted leader to kind of lead in that way and be purposeful about their actions. But that's how it's done. That's how you start to consciously shift culture and consciously shift the way we lead.
Thanks, Lyall. I have one more. I know we're kind of coming up to the top of the hour, but I'm going to try to squeeze this one in. And I hope I pronounced the name okay, but this comes to us from Sushant. And the question is, how can you keep future in mind while using design thinking? So example, in construction or even in services. And again, certainly a large area of our tech members are in both of those industries.
Yeah, I think it's really important to keep the future in mind. You know, I did some work actually with a tech member organization not that long ago in construction, road repair, quite frankly. And we were helping them kind of, they were having real challenges with the handoffs between their crews, between shift change. And they were like, oh, we got to get better at that because we're dropping the ball, we're redoing some tasks, we're missing some tasks. It's not actually making us be as kind of effective and as efficient as we could be. And they leaned into the world of design thinking. They actually leaned into analogous situations. And they started to actually examine how the handoff happens between an ambulance attendant and the triage nurse at the hospital in the emergency room, right? Think about that, right? At the core of what they're trying to do is they're trying to basically say, well, where else in the world do people need to kind of impart knowledge to someone really fast and really effectively so that they can continue making sure that things are moving in the right direction? And they leaned into this kind of relationship in a hospital. Road repair crew went to a hospital to observe some of these situations, and they learned some really amazing things. One of the things they learned is that actually they had it all wrong. They had the accountability for who did the handoff was the people that were leaving shift after working 8 to 10 hours when you're all tired and you've had a long day. They were the ones that were accountable for telling the new crew where things were at. Well, in a hospital, it's the triage nurse that asks all the questions of the ambulance attendant when the patient comes in. So they switched the accountability there and had some amazing success in actually helping improve the process just from that single kind of observation and like light bulb moment by observing kind of a similar situation. So staying future focused is all about recognizing and having this ability to say there are better ways out there and having this kind of unwavering belief that you can make things better. And that's something that as a leader, that's how you stay future focused, is always being curious how there's other situations, other ways to make improvements, not just how you've always done it, but by having an appetite to be curious to see how other situations are occurring and how that can apply to your business. That's how you stay future focused. That's how also you stay in touch with the preference changes of your users, because what your user values today could be very different tomorrow, especially with the pace of technology change and the blend of our personal world and our professional lives. Our user preferences are changing dramatically all the time. And so we've got to have that kind of constant curiosity to stay in touch with it so that we're relevant for the future. Great question.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Really appreciate, that analogous example really stuck with me. So thank you. I know we went over. We probably could have spent another hour on this fascinating topic. Thank you so much to everyone that's joined us either here on Zoom or across our social media channels. Of course, if you had to early or you joined us late, not to worry. We are recording this. It will be posted on Tech Canada's website. You can also find it on our social media. Again, tec-canada.com and our social media channels. If you're already following us, thank you for doing that. Lyall, thank you. So appreciate all of your insights, time today, answering the great questions, all of the engagement. So thrilled to have you on board with us.
Thanks so much, everyone. Be good today, everybody. Go out there and be curious. Have a great day.
You as well. Thank you. Bye, everyone. See you next time.